Hello and welcome to this new video. This time we're going to do something like this. Let's get started. Let's start by pressing Shift A to add an empty sphere and change the name. I'm going to call mine empty_effector. After this, press Shift A again and add a UV sphere. Right-click on the sphere and select Shade Smooth. Then press G and move the sphere away from the center. Press number pad 7 to go to top view and then press Ctrl Alt number pad 0 to move the camera to that position. Now press Shift A again and add a grid. Go to the grid properties and change the size to 3. Press number pad 0 to enter the camera view. Select the camera and press G, seed, and move the camera closer to that grid. Around there. Next, select the grid, press Tab to go to Edit Mode, then press SX to make the grid a bit bigger than the camera. Now press SY to make it bigger in Y-axis. Tap to go back to Object Mode. Now go to View, Area and split the view using one of these options. On this new view, go to the editor type and switch to Geometry Nodes. Make sure that you are selecting the grid and then click on New. Inside the Geometry Nodes editor, press Shift 8S, type Instance and add a point instance like this one. Press Shift 8S again and type Scale to add a point scale behind this instance node. Go back to the point instance, then go to Object and select the sphere. Select the scale vector values by holding down left click and drag down, and then make the spheres a bit smaller, around 0.050. Go back to the 3D viewport and press Tab to go to Edit Mode. Right click on the grid and select Subdivide. Then increase the subdivision until you have everything filled with the spheres. After that, press A just to be sure that everything is selected. Go to Object Data Properties and click on the plus icon of the Vertex Group. Change the name of the group, click Assign, go back to the viewport and press Tab to go back to Object Mode. Move to the Geometry Nodes editor, press Shift 8S, type Mix and add the attribute Mix node. Change the factor to attribute and V to vector. Now type the Vertex Group name inside the factor. Type Scale in lower cases for A and for the result. And change the vector to 1. Let's now go to the modifier, add modifier vertex weight proximity. Once you add that, we need to move it above the geometry nodes. In here, we need to add the vertex group, the empty as the target, and the proximity mode to geometry using vertex. Let's type 1.1 in the lowest, 1 in the highest, and the fall off to smooth to have the main effect. Now select the empty, go to Object Properties, right click on Scale X and select Copy as New Driver. Select the grid again, go to the modifier and on top of the lowest, right click and select Paste Driver. Right click again and select Edit Driver. Inside the driver, switch the type to Scripted Expression. Then go to the expression and add plus 0.23. Go back to the modifier, right click on the highest and select Paste Driver and leave it like that. Now, if you scale the empty, you will see the effect. Let's start with the animation. Press number pad 0 to go to the camera view. Make sure the empty is selected and go to Object Properties. Go back to the 3D viewport and press S to scale down the empty. It doesn't have to be perfect. and add a keyframe for the scale at the first frame. Move the timeline around 30 or more if you want to. Then press S to scale up the empty until you fill the camera view, and add a keyframe there. Okay, we now have the basic animation. Let's add some randomness to this. Select the grid, go to the modifier, and select the Geometry Nodes modifier. Inside the Geometry Nodes editor, press Shift-8S and type random, and select the attribute randomize. Change that to vector. The minimum will be -3 and -1 twice, and the max will be 3 and 1 twice. Then inside the attribute, type position 1 in lower cases. Shift-8S again and type mix to add an attribute mix, and put that in front of the random. Switch it to add, reduce the factor to 0.200. Attribute A will be position, B will be position 1 as the last node, and the result will be position. Move the timeline around 25, reduce the factor to 0, right-click and insert a keyframe. Go back to frame 1, change the factor to 0.200, right-click and insert a keyframe. And let's see what we have. If you want to, you could change the attribute randomize values. After this, go back to the first attribute mix that we used for the scale. Select that and press Shift-D to make a copy. Put it in front, change the new one from mix to subtract, move the timeline to frame 1, right-click on the vector and select Insert Keyframe. Move to frame 25 or so, change the value to 0, right-click and insert a keyframe. To finish this, go to the modifier and turn off Geometry Nodes. Go back to frame 1, then go to Object Properties and change the rotation in any way you want to. It doesn't matter. Once you're happy with that, right-click on Rotation and add a keyframe. Now move around frame 25 and move all the rotations back to 0 and add a keyframe. Don't forget to turn on the Geometry Nodes again. Alright. Let's now add the image. Select the sphere mesh, go to Material, change the emission to white and increase it a bit. Go to the World Properties and change the background to black. Go to Render Properties, turn on Ambient Occlusion, then go to View Layers and also turn Ambient Occlusion on. And hit F12 to render a frame. Let's go to Compositing and turn on Use Nodes. Hold down Ctrl Shift and click on the image socket to create a viewer node. Then go to View and select Fit. After this, press Shift-8S again and type Image to add the image node. Use this node to add your image to the scene. Once you add your image, press Shift-8S and type Set Alpha to add the node. Connect the image to the image socket and the main render image to the alpha socket, and then set alpha to the viewer node. Shift-8S again and add a mix node. Switch that to multiply and add the ambient occlusion to the mix. Shift-8S one more time to add the ellipse mask. Connect that to the factor and press Shift-8S to add an invert node in between the ellipse and the mix node. Let me show you the black and white image. Inside the ellipse mask, right-click on the width and select Copy as New Driver. Right-click on the height and select Paste Driver. With this, we'll be having a perfect circle as a mask. Now we need to animate this ellipse mask. Move the timeline around 25 and the width to 0 and add a keyframe. Then move the timeline around 40 and make the width as big as the render and add another keyframe. Once you're happy with that, connect the Mix node to the Composite node, and now we are ready to render the animation. And that's it. I hope you liked this video. Make sure to subscribe and share, and I will see you next time. Bye.